really excited about this podcast because we're going to do a series here where we talk to a bunch of advisors outside of you guys, just having to hear about from me and Vince about all the stuff that we believe. Here gives us an opportunity to learn from other advisors, successful advisors that are in our space. And really, I can't think of a better guest than our first, Michael here. Happy to have you. I know we've been working together for quite some time, right? Even before like mastermind days, like FFI back in a while.
Yes, sir. It's been, I think, 2019 is, I think, when I actually originally met you at the conference in Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. How time flies. How time flies. That's right. That's right. But it's very cool in what you're doing, and I know you're growing pretty rapidly. But for those that don't know you, if you don't mind giving a little bit of a background on kind of where you're at and kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, no, obviously, I'm happy to do this because I think it's important to spread the knowledge, man. I believe, the more successful people are out there, the more people doing good job for clients and so on. So I think it's great that you guys are doing this.
Yeah.
So I run a fee-only RIA. We currently have 3 offices based in Connecticut, but I just opened up a new office in New York last year. And we got established in 2016. And from 2016 to 19, we kind of putzed around a little bit here, kind of trying to find our groove. And then just basically kind of connected with you. Really love the strategy. I think classes educational is kind of where it's at. In my opinion, I love presenting. So maybe that's not the same for everybody. I love getting out in front of the room of people and just kind of delivering a good quality message that they can really relate to. So as of today, we're at about $170 million. We clear through Fidelity, and this program has been a game changer for us. And I'm not just promoting you; I'm just giving you my honest opinion. We've tried many different things.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. So that's crazy. I mean, so you have 4 offices, and I think a lot of advisors that will listen to this, and some aren't. They're closer to like the 30 million assets. They're kind of running the solo entrepreneur shop. How did you make that transition from being solo to now having 4 offices? I'm assuming you have an advisor at each office. How did you make that jump?
Yeah, so the 3 locations that we have, we all started in Avon. So I used to be a solo for the longest time, and I really had no staff. Couldn't find a custodian to clear through all these issues that come along.
Mm-hmm.
But then eventually, we just I wanted to find a good strategy, a good process for getting in front of clients. And I've tried everything. I've tried advisor. I've tried, if there is a lead gen system out there, I've tried it. I've done a lot of local networking. That certainly helped. But there's limitations to it. You can only grow so far with it. So I think technology is really, really big one. Try to kind of create workflows, and have good systems in place and good processes in place, and then find the marketing channel that works for you, right? Whichever way, I have, like, for example, Rich on my staff. He's an advisor that runs our Milford office. He's all about pickleball, like that's his thing. But he's also all about art. So he's actually looking for potential clients in the spaces where he enjoys spending time in. So just kind of want to figure out the sort of the laid out and land, the technology, sort of who we want to work with. That was a really, really big one. Instead of kind of opening up our doors to everyone, we really niched out. And once we niched out, which was scary at the beginning, because how do you say no?
Right.
That's been the catalyst for our growth. Really just kind of identifying exactly who we want to work with and who we don't want to work with has been huge for us.
That's awesome. I think it's cool that, even to point this out a little bit, is like you just talked about finding your ideal demographic, right? Your target, but it was more so than just like assets, right? It was more than like, I only meet with 500K. It was, I want higher net worth people that enjoy pickleball or art, right? And then I'm sure your other advisors have different interests, but you're diving into it a lot more than just assets.
Oh yeah, awesome. Assets come with it, and I feel you have to make sure that the people you work with are just kind of a good match for you and what we're trying to solve for, right? So deep tax planning. We work with individuals over the age of 50 that are about to retire or retired, which I think a lot of advisors do, but we are very tax-centric. Roth conversions is a huge part of what we do, tax minimization. So that eliminates a lot of people that don't see necessarily value in it, which automatically kind of gravitates us more towards a higher net worth individuals that do see a value of, gee, if I don't do anything now, my required distribution is just going to hammer me for the rest of my life and my wife's life. Then my kids are going to also be the beneficiary of that nonsense. So just kind of, yeah, I think figuring out who you want to work with is huge, and assets really shouldn't be a part of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's huge. So you're doing marketing. I know you're doing the live classes, right? Because I know we're running the marketing for those, and you're doing them in those areas. I know not a whole lot of virtual, right? I think you found live classes like in person setup is kind of more of that feel. But kind of moving on to that next stage, I mean, you're closing a lot of business.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind sharing kind of your appointment process and what your typical setup is like there?
Yeah, man, not at all, of course. So we tried, so we've recorded the webinar and we've tried the webinar, especially during the COVID time. I don't know, it just didn't work for us. I don't know what it is about what we do. I know many advisors that the webinars work for phenomenally. So don't take that as, okay, webinars don't work. They do. They just didn't work for us. I find that our cost per registration is much lower when we have an in-person classes. And I don't know what you guys are doing, but whatever it is that you're doing in the back end, it really puts in the right people into the room. You know, our typical registration, we get, I don't know, 50, 60 registrations. For us, it's been 50% show rate. It doesn't matter what we do, it's 50% show rate. And then from the show rate, you know, we say we have about 25 people in the room, say households, we get about 7 to 8 qualified appointments that we can then follow through. So the way our process works is we have, for the classes, for the events that we're running, we have a 2-meeting process. So the first thing we do is we use Calendly. That's the system we use for scheduling. So at the end of the class, you know, I talk about, we call it the lab session. You can sign up, I give them the benefits of the session. And then I tell them, listen, there's Betsy, and then there's usually at least 2 more advisors just kind of sitting, you know, Rich and Adam, sitting at the table by the exit. And I just tell them, listen, you want to get up and schedule a lab session, go for it. This is how you do it. So when they come up and they schedule the session, the first thing happens is they immediately get an email from Calendly telling them exactly what I need. So what am I asking them for? I'm asking them for their statements. We're asking them for the last year tax returns. We're asking them for the declaration pages for the home and auto insurance, right? The typical financial planning stuff that we need in order for us to really have a good understanding of where clients are at. And then they have a sequence of reminders that's coming out to them. We also ask them to reconfirm their attendance. So Calendly has that feature where they get an email and say, you need to reconfirm this meeting. And believe it or not, they all do. I will hit the button, and we have almost a 99% show rate to our meetings.
That's awesome.
We also, so Betsy, she's a back office person for our firm. She calls them 2 days in advance. So we use Salesforce. We actually use a system called Quiver, which is sort of built out by an advisor that's going to sit on Salesforce. It allows us a lot of customizations with our follow-up. So when after the class, she goes into Calendly, she pulls up all the meetings that are scheduled, and we create follow-ups for her. So she calls them a couple of days in advance and say, hey, this is Betsy, just making sure you're coming, or making sure that you know how to go to Mike's office or to Rich's office. When they come in for the original lab session, it's really kind of them talking. So we're getting all the information from them. What brought you to the class? What are you looking for? Many of them have advisors. And what I've learned is that the number one answer to why did you sign up was the topic that you guys discussed. So these people, many of them have been to other classes before. And they expect some sort of a sales pitch or some sort of presentation where you're quickly trying to close somebody, right? That is an opposite of what we do. So the topics that we discuss, Roth conversions, tax planning, it's also relevant to them. So they are intrigued by what we offer. So meeting 1, we kind of get all of that information. Then meeting 2, we put together an assessment. So we use a PowerPoint and a bunch of different systems, tools to kind of write what I call the retirement planning light, if you will. And we put it together into what's called the assessment meeting. They come back in and we go through that presentation of telling me, hey, listen, this is where we think you're at. This is some of the value that we can add. This is what it's going to cost you to work with us. This is what the potential outcome might look like. And if you decide to work with us, we'll obviously have to spend more time on this and they're totally fine with not getting a full-blown plan because they know why they're there and they know what you do. So it's not like a big mystery of all of a sudden, how do I ask them to become a client? They wouldn't be going there if they didn't think that, that there's an opportunity for them to potentially work with you. So that's been kind of our process. And many times we tell them, hey, listen, you don't have to make a decision, and not an awkward pauses at the end of the meeting. Go home, think about it, follow up with you, a few times the following week. And that's kind of in a nutshell the process that we go through.
That's awesome. I mean, there's, I think, a lot of gold nuggets in that. One, I mean, starting at the beginning of like talking about your marketing, I think it's important to find something that's going to fit you, right? I think a lot of like, even like our agency and like, a lot of other agencies will just push like, this is the one way to do it. And I think me and Vince talk about sometimes too, and this is why I think why this series is so important. It's like, yeah, webinars maybe work great for some people, but it doesn't for others. And so maybe you just have to find that person that will move the marketing around that's going to fit you, right? And so it's not forced or felt forced. And so the cool thing is you found the groove and you're sticking with it. And then the second thing is like picking up on that is like when you're teaching these classes, you're going in educational purpose, right? And you're not pushing a product at the end. And maybe you don't feel like you have to, right? Because you're not doing dinners or like,
right.
You have the numbers there. So it's not like you feel like you have to force a sale, which is awesome. So it's really cool. Out of curiosity, and I get this question a lot, and I know Vince uses, I don't even know, I guess, the planning platform, but when you're offering plans, what platform are you using, or do you recommend for advisors?
Yeah, so it depends, I guess, on how deep and sort of what your planning process is like. Our planning process is very, very in-depth and very tax-centric. So we use a system called Right Capital, and we also use a system called Income Labs. Primarily, Income Labs is probably, I would say, is 85% of what we use is Income Labs, and then we also throw in Holistaplan as part of it. So those are the three primary systems that we use to A, build out the plans, and B, then monitor them. And Income Lab is a great system if you are really comfortable talking about tax planning, acquired distribution, Roth conversions, right? How much do you potentially want to consider converting? A lot of advisors don't want to touch that, don't get in too much into the weeds. I found that people that become our clients want that. And the reason why they are in that class, at least for us, is because they need that extra. They have an advisor, right? They talked about Roth conversions, and many times it's, I don't know if you really need one. You should think about it, but maybe we'll look at it later, right? It's kind of wishy-washy answer. We come in and say, boom, this is your conversion. This is how much you're going to save on taxes. This is what the schedule will look like. We got to monitor this year to year. There you go. And they go like, I've never seen numbers like this before. So it kind of resonates with the right audience, but you obviously need to be able to, have a comfort level or compliance approved level. If you're, duly registered, obviously you don't want to sign up for things that your compliance group doesn't approve. So, just take it with a grain of salt.
That's right. We love compliance, but they help you keep the license. So
that's right. You want to stay in business.
That's right. Gotta love Big Brother.
That's right.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Out of curiosity, because I know you're doing this and you're kind of growing, you're still being an advisor and taking on clients too, right? Because I know, and then you have sub advisors underneath you. Is that right?
Yeah. So I primarily run classes around Rich and Adam's offices. So Milford in New York. So I probably run about 85-90% of classes around them. And maybe once it was, so we run classes every month consistently. We've been running classes because, in my opinion, it takes about good 4 to 5 months to kind of get into a groove and actually start to create some sort of a pipeline. A lot of times people go in and they just spend a little bit of money. They try it for a month or two and they say it doesn't work. It does. You just need to kind of stick to it. And, it took us maybe 6 months or so to really kind of start seeing some benefits of that right at the beginning. So right now I get up, I speak, and they usually meet with either Adam or Rich. Last year, I ran no classes next to my office, none. Everything has been kind of pushed out to the other guys. This year, I might run 1 or 2, but we already ran 4. We just had a class last week in New York, and then we already have May 1 on the schedule. So we're just going to keep going. Summer months, just keep working.
Keep them running. I know. Okay, to go back to that, it's huge. I think this is a constant conversation I have with advisors is like, they give it a month try, right? And they're like, man, this program sucks or it doesn't work. And then they jump to the next thing. And then I hear people that are coming to work with us are like, And I just tried this program for 3 weeks. It didn't work. And they're jumping to me, and I'm like, honestly, that system probably did work, right? You just didn't stay and commit to that process. With us, if they leave, it's like you didn't stay and commit to the process. Because I know even with like the way we have you set up and like running the classes and stuff, there's the automation drip, right? So like the
Yeah.
50% that don't attend or the ones that don't book an appointments, all that stuff gets re-engaged. And so it's like you're speaking the words, which is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, you got to be consistent with it. And, you guys are pretty flexible because our process on the follow-up after the class is a little bit different than maybe some other advisors. I reached out to you earlier, and this is just, you didn't pay me to say this. I'm just saying it because it really worked. I reached out to Josh, and I'm like, hey, listen, man, we need to set up some sort of a follow-up process for doing two things. People that registered for the classes before and did not attend, I want to reinvite him back in, right? When we're going back to the Milford office and we're going back to the library, I want them to be, what's the easiest way for me to reinvite him, number one. And then number two is people that did not attend the class, which is about half of them cancel or just don't show. I've recorded the webinar. So how do we direct them to go to this webinar if they don't show up? And what I found, you guys were cool, was building that out. Brittany's amazing. She's been on and off with us, kind of testing it and making sure that it works. So now it's really simple for us. So when somebody comes in and says, I can't make it, we just say, hey, listen, you know what? No problem. You're going to get a video recording of the class. And they all love it. And they actually do watch it. And now we have a process to say, okay, well, this is how we're going to deal with everybody who didn't come. Or I'll give you an interesting statistic, Josh. So last class we ran in New York before April was in February. So prior to February, we ran 3 classes in New York last year. So now that we have a process of reinviting prior people who didn't show, we had about 25 registrations for the February class from people that got reinvited. Those are people that I already paid for to get into the system, right? I didn't have to spend more money advertising, because we have a capacity of whatever, 80, 90 people, right? 25 registered just from the reinvites. Now, half of them didn't show, which fine. But the other did, 10 people did. So the ability to be able to just consistently re-engage and drip on them has been great for us, which really wasn't available before, but it's working like a clock now.
Yeah, it's so big. And yeah, Brittany is an absolutely amazing person. Helps build a lot of our automations. And I think a lot of the stuff that you've built too, it's like you think about this in like a year or 2 years down the line, when you're hitting these locations again, there's a time when you're not going to have to run ads, right? You're just going to shoot an email blast and you got 25. Well, soon you double that in a year, right? That's 50 registrations, 25 will show. Who needs ads anymore? And it just goes to all that of like right time, right moment, right? You're hitting those people. And so as long as you re-engage them, keep them interested, like it's just something that you can build upon, and like outside of like a white glove where you're spending maybe 6,000 for one event and then you got to do it again and again and again. There's a time down in the future, relatively fast for especially what you're setting up is like there's gonna be a time where you don't have to run ads, right? You get 10 people or 12 people in a room, and it's just because you just sent an email out real quick.
Yeah, and then listen, we can export them too. So like I said, we use Salesforce, so we can export them. We can put them in Salesforce, and let's say there is a market volatility or something is going on. We can connect with them. We can send them an email. We can, reopen the lab session for them. We can run a more private event and maybe re-invite some people in. Maybe we get 2 or 3 or 4 of them to show up. There's so many different things that because we have them, they obviously signed up for something. And even the ones that come and don't schedule an appointment, we can still re-engage them as well. Though we don't really have much success with them because usually when they don't sign up, there is a reason why they don't sign up. Probably because of the minimum so we have a minimum on the slide when we tell them if you have less than this, the lab session just doesn't make sense for you. And it's an uncomfortable thing to do. I'll give you a story. We were running a class in February in New York, and I got bronchitis. I couldn't present, so I had Adam, my new advisor, who has presented before on his own. I said, "Listen, Adam, you're gonna have to run this." And he's, to his credit, we have a recording of the class. He's been to a few of the presentations already. So he was comfortable and sort of, he knew the topic, he prepped. And then so he runs the class and I can see the registrations. Then all of a sudden his appointments started to come in. And I'm counting how many people are registering, and I'm like, that's a lot more than usual. So I called him after the class, and I said, let me guess, you did not mention the minimum. And he goes, how did you know? I'm like, because more people are registering. So we have a very good filtering process of saying, hey, this is who it's applicable for versus who's not. I think you'll learn a lot in this class either way, but if you want to go to the next step, you need to have a $500,000 minimum or $750,000 minimum. And that eliminates a lot of people, but that's okay because they're not necessarily in your avatar either way. So you wouldn't take them on anyways. Why go through the lab session? But if somebody really wants to, I don't have enough money, but I really want to do it. We'll take care of it. We'll bring him in for the lab session. So it's not a hardcore no, but.
Right, you're just letting them know. Yeah, that's awesome. That is huge. I know we're kind of getting close to the end of the time and what we're trying to shoot, and I always just want to ask one question on this, and it's like if you had to go back and you're starting from the beginning, maybe you're looking at the $20-30 million mark, and you're kind of where you're at there. Is there anything that you would change or do differently, or kind of I guess what I'm asking on that is like. Is there any something, maybe a mistake or something that you've done in the past that maybe you learned from and you could probably say for another advisor that's maybe in that stage, some advice on that?
Yeah, so I think the two things that I would do differently is I would be more consistent, because at the beginning, and you know this, I would do it every other month or every 2 months, every 3 months. So it really didn't work. And I understand the financial obligation of that. So that had something to do with it for sure. But I would definitely include a minimum, because before we would just basically put up the lab session and invite everybody in, filtering people out. And then we've changed our presentation a little bit where it's really planning centric. And a lot of slides are designed to talk about tax minimization in retirement, specifically around Roth conversion. So I would just incorporate that sooner, because that seems to resonate a lot more with people than just and we talk a little bit about investments, but people that we do best work for and that's our best clients are really centric around tax minimization. And I wish I'd realized that sooner. Probably would have saved had a few more clients, but it is what it is.
Yeah, we're all growing and learning, right? That's awesome, man. Well, that's very cool. All right. Well, anyway, thank you for jumping on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. And I know there's some nuggets in there that a lot of advisors will take from what you've provided. And so, again, yeah, if you guys listen to this podcast, it'll also be put on YouTube. You guys can check us out there. Leave comments, subscribe. If you do want to look at what Mastermind's doing or want to learn more, you can just email us at support@mastermindadvisors.com. We'll take it from there. But again, Michael, thank you again for hopping on and really sharing some of your knowledge.
Oh, you're very welcome. And if anybody has any questions for me, feel free to share my contact info. I'm happy to hop on and answer any questions if anybody got any.
That's awesome. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.